Hey, I'm Stephanie Fager, and Empower is my middle name. Okay, well, not really, but it should be. I believe that empowered people empower people, and I'm obsessed with empowering you, the nonfiction author, with impactful marketing strategies to help you take your important message and share it with those who desperately need it, want it, and will buy it. As the owner and chief strategist of the Empower PR Group, and the author of 2 books myself, I have merged my love for reading books, writing books, and marketing books to help nonfiction authors with laser-focused strategies and tactics to write books that sell, promote books to those who need and want them most, and to build meaningful businesses from empowering messages. Think of this podcast as your one-stop shop for marketing insights from an author who has been there, who has done that, and who understands exactly where you are. All right, go grab a warm beverage. Y'all know this. I have a chai tea waiting over here. And get a comfy blanket because it is fall, y'all. We need those blankies. And get your pens ready too because I'm ready to empower you, aspiring author, on how to become an empowered writer. This is the Empowered Author Podcast. When I published my first book, I expected to be asked questions about the book's topic, where people could buy the book, and even if I could come speak to their groups about its powerful messages. But in addition to those expected questions came the unexpected ones. Hey, Stephanie, I think I may want to write a book. How in the world do I do that? Or, I already have a book I've written, but I haven't a clue what the next steps are. Or, will anyone want to read and buy my book? How in the world do I get published? And my favorite, could I really build a business for my book? Listen, these are all great questions, and I've decided to devote an entire season of the Empowered Author Podcast to giving my take on each of these questions and more. By the end, be expected to not only be an empowered author, but also an empowered writer. Let's dive in. I've had the chance to work with many nonfiction authors in various stages of their book dreams. And listen, what I've come to find as the key differentiator between just any book and a book that really changes lives and a book that sells is this. Listen, many people can write a book. Quite frankly, I venture to say almost anyone could actually pull together a book, write it, get it published. But those who are successful at writing a book and at selling it are those that write their book, not just for themselves, but for others. If there's one thing I've noticed, both as an avid reader and as a book marketer, it's that what stands out with the book is who it's really written for. Seriously. Think back to some of your favorite books that you've read, and especially in the nonfiction world, you can tell when an author wrote the book for themselves or they wrote it for their reader. This is game-changing, and today I want to share with you what I have come to develop as the Write to Your Reader framework. It's something I go in depth with authors who take part in the Empowered Writer program, but today I'm excited to give you a little glimpse. So in the first 2 episodes of this season, you've spent some time reflecting as an author on a couple things. You've reflected on your why. Why are you writing this book in the first place? You have reflected on understanding your goals and your success metrics. And listen, that is really important to me because how can you actually achieve success and achieve your goals if you don't know what they are? And you've also spent some time understanding how mindset plays a part in the whole book creation journey. And I venture to say, quite frankly, in everything in life. Maybe you walked away with that episode 2 as something that you could actually apply into your own life on the regular. So the next step that I believe in really becoming an empowered writer, a stronger writer, and writing a book that will really sell is making sure that you have clarity on who your book is for and that you write to them directly. That seems pretty easy, right? Well, guess what? For many people, it just isn't. And that's okay. That's what we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about. So how do you write your book for somebody if you're not writing it for yourself? Well, the first thing I believe is realizing that you have selected to write a book for a reason. You could have journaled about this and hid it under your bed or your pillow. You could have taken a photo montage of your life. You could have just held all this in, but you chose to write a book. And because you chose to write this book specifically, you are really pushing yourself to do something different and to make a difference in the life of someone else. And that's why it's really important that you get clarity on who your target audience is. Now, I'm not going to go crazy in depth here on identifying your target audience because that's something that you can spend some additional time doing. It's very important though. So please don't overlook doing some research on who your target audience is. If that's something I can help you with, you just give me a holler, okay? But I do want to leave you with kind of 3 target audience tips. The first one is, ask yourself who needs your book's message. And I don't mean just who would read it because I asked them. I mean who needs it, at your core needs it, and are going to be changed because of it. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, why do they need it? Do they need it because it's going to change everything in their life? Do they need it and know that they need it? These are questions that might be good for you to think about. And the third question is, and I actually think it's the most important, who will invest their time reading it and their money buying it? So when we talk about an investment when it comes to your book, we're actually asking readers to invest 2 different things with us. One is the time that they are going to set aside. And for many nonfiction books, that's, several hours of their life reading your book. It's like they're trading that, right? And you want to make sure that that investment is something that's worth it for them. But you're also asking for a financial investment. They're going to buy your book. And you want to make sure that they walk away feeling like both of those investments are worth it. So get some clarity on who is going to need your message, how are they going to need it, why are they going to need it, and will they invest in it? That'll help you kind of niche it down to find the right target audience. And once you do, then you can start writing to your reader. And what in the world does that mean, Stephanie? Great question. Let's dive in a little bit and dissect it. So when you understand your why you're writing your book, and when you understand your own personal goals, you start to realize that there's something really important to help you achieve it. And that is making sure that someone's going to invest in your book or the offerings that the book is about to unlock. Yeah, seriously, how do you achieve your goals if nobody picks up the book? So this is where I'm going to ask you as an author to put your ego on the shelf for a hot minute, because we know that you've got an awesome message you're about to share and we know that the world needs it, but I don't want you to think about you. Don't let that ego get in the way. And I want you to make sure that as you're writing your book and your manuscript, that you're doing so in a way that someone who's going to pick it up is going to love it and will share it with others. And when somebody asks me the key marketing advice I can give them for book authors, I'm going to tell them this: write a great book. When you write a great book, you will save so much money on your marketing efforts because the book will sell itself, because your readers are going to love it and find value in it and start telling people about it. So this is kind of hard because the main reason you probably wrote a book is because you have a message to share and you feel like that message is really important to the world. So you're writing a book you want to write. But once you get that book kind of drafted, at least for me, this is how it worked. Once I got that book drafted, then I had a conversation with myself and said, okay, Stephanie, what I wrote, would my target audience need all that info? Is there something I'm missing? Just kind of help you figure out the beginnings of how to write to your reader in that framework. But once you understand your target audience, that really ideal reader, and you understand what their goals are, this is pivotal because things start to change. And it's at that important stage that you start to adapt your manuscript and find a way to merge why you're writing the book and why your reader would want to read it. And this takes you to the Write to Your Reader framework. Hey y'all, it's Stephanie and I'm popping in here for just a second to see if you're serious about writing a book. And not just writing any book, but writing a book that will make a difference, that will leave a legacy. And listen, will just sell. After getting asked time and time again about how to write a book people will want and buy, I decided to create the Empowered Writer Program, a signature program here at the Empower PR Group that provides aspiring authors with the tools they need to bring their messages from their minds to the masses and do it in a way that will ensure their books are ones readers want, need, and will buy. And this Write to Your Reader framework is a great way to get that moving. With a mix of self-guided content and one-on-one coaching from yours truly, that's me over here, this program will help you achieve various levels of success, including understanding and writing to your niche, the development of a stronger manuscript and book, and the guidance you need to bring your book to life. Finally, it's here. So visit empowerprgroup.com/theempoweredwriter, or you can check the show notes with a direct link there to get all of the details. And listen, let's schedule time to connect, see if this program is a good right fit for you. All right, enough about this. Let's get back to the conversation. So, there's a lot of different ways that you could actually spread your message. We just talked about that. You could share it on social. You could do a podcast like I'm doing. You could do speaking engagements. You could just hold it in and not tell anybody, but you're choosing to do so through a book. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you not only write a book that you're proud of, but one that someone is going to invest in. Someone is going to say yes, raise their hand and say, that was worth every minute of my life that I gave over to read that book, and it changed me. So what I've done is I have broken the Write to Your Reader framework into 3 parts. Each of these parts are really pivotal. I'm going to give you a highlight on each of them today. The first part in the Write to Your Reader framework is the manuscript. The second part is the book, and I'm talking physically the book. And the third part is the action. So let's take a minute and let's break apart each of the 3 parts of the Write to Your Reader framework. And remember, this is something I share exclusively in my Empowered Writer program that is a signature program of the Empower PR Group. So if you want more details, you can always reach out to learn a little bit more about that. But let's start with part 1, which is the manuscript. So this is where people are, where you might be right now, where a lot of people typically come to me. They've got something that they've already drafted. That manuscript's already kind of packaged up, or they've taken a stab and written a couple of pages. They have an idea, maybe an outline. Either way, we're focusing on the written word at this point because, quite frankly, it's the most impactful section if you want to write a book that will sell. And to do that, if you want to do that, you have to write a book that will leave an impact. And to do that, I tell people all the time, you just have to write a good book. You want to make sure you write a good book, that the content, the manuscript, the message, all of that's interwoven, and it's just a stellar book. You want that book, that manuscript, to be something that gives value, something people are going to talk about afterwards, something that they will find that, is worth their investment financially and in time towards you is worth it. To do this, though, you might have to do a little bit of research because I want you to think back about your manuscript. If you're in this phase right now, I want you to think about this. Think about the words you've put on the page so far. Maybe the ones that are in your mind, maybe the ones you haven't gotten out yet. And I want you to reflect on your target audience, that ideal reader. I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. You may want to pull out a pen and paper and kind of journal about this. I want you to ask yourself, what do you think about the tone that your manuscript needs to be written in to reach that target audience? And what I mean by that is, what's the general vibe? What's the essence of the tone? What's the feeling you want people to get when they're reading your book? Is this like a real serious tone or a highly professional tone? Is it kind of lighthearted, conversational? Is it something that feels, like they're sitting here at the coffee shop with you? That was really important when I was writing my book, actually. Is it a tone that comes across really stern and confident? This tone is really important. You want to make sure that you're writing it in a way that talks to it based on the tone you want to bring to life, but you want to make sure that your reader's also getting that tone as well. That will really create a relationship between you and your reader. In regards to the manuscript too, I also want you to think about the style of your book. Is your book going to be conversational, or does it need to be a bit more academic? Does it need to be written in the business way, kind of like in a business setting, or can it be written in a more casual setting? All of this is really important, and these elements connect the dots for your reader, and it also connects the dots on the type of author that you are. The tone and the style, in my opinion, is kind of your key differentiator. You could be writing about a very similar topic that somebody else is, but when you do it through this unique tone and style, it's going to make you stand out. So it's really important that you figure out kind of what that is and what kind of energy you want people to have when they walk away from it. The third thing I want you to think about when we're talking about part 1 on the manuscript is your book length. So depending upon your target audience, they may have more time investment that they can give or less time investment, and that should dictate how long your book should be. I want you to think about your target audience. Do they have the capacity to sit down and read a 150,000 thousand word, they're both long, book, or is their life a little more hectic and maybe a 40,000 word book would make more sense? Do they even need that at all? The right length, in my opinion, is a blend between what does it take to get your message across, and how much content will your reader consume? I also want you to take a look at your competition, because this might give you some good ideas, and see what other books are out there and how long are their books. Are some books longer than others? And that'll help you start to evaluate really how much time investment your ideal audience, your ideal reader, will put into something. So if you don't know that for sure, you might want to look into that. And it also might just be the catalyst for you to realize if you are a prolific writer, maybe this manuscript should be 2 books instead of 1. That's always a fun thing to uncover. So take a peek at your manuscript, and I want you to look at it through that lens. The second part of the Write to Your Reader framework is focused on the book itself. I'm talking the physical book that you will hold. This is really important because, let's be honest, people do judge a book by its cover, whether that's right or wrong. They do, especially when it comes to readers. I know I do. I'll walk through the bookstore many days and just pick out ones with really pretty covers that speak to me. So if I know that happens and I am a book marketer, believe me, I know other people out there are looking at it that way. And it's really important that you have some clarity and a strategy and just awareness of how what your book looks like and feels like will impact if your readers will have interest in it and take action to purchase it. So in part 1, when we were talking about the manuscript, and I suggested that you do some research in what your competition does, maybe keep that competition up on your Google page, and look at that competition. Look at their covers. Get some ideas on their covers, and what do you notice? Do you notice are most of the books paperback or hardback? Do these books, your competition rather, have an e-back version, or is it a mixture of all 3? Another thing to think about with the physical book is what size should it be? So most books that I work with in the nonfiction space run about a 6 by 9 inch book, but there's reasons to do other sizes. For instance, when I do my workbooks, I like my workbooks to be an 8.5 by 11. It's just easier to read in. I want them to actually work in it, hence the workbook. And that size is really important for me. You might find that other books, like maybe you're doing a reflective journal, or I don't know, like I've shared with you all before, one of my favorite authors is Mitch Albom, for example, and he does smaller books, kind of like pocket-sized books. So that might be a good size for your book. You want to think about this now on what your audience might find most interesting, because there's value in having different sizes based on the goals and the message that your book brings. The other thing I want you to be thinking about is this alignment with your book's message, what the book size is, what the cover design should look like. So let's talk cover design for a minute. Should it be more artistic, or should it just be words with like a very, very bold background? Should the cover kind of be soft or energetic or make a statement? Should it have a picture of you or not? This is a very interesting one. There's lots of people who have different opinions on if their face should be on the front of a cover. There's reasons to have it or not. These are all things that you should be considering in addition to considering the colors that you select. So if you go back to the author branding season 2 of the Empowered Author podcast, there is an episode in that season that's focused on colors. And that might have a lot of value for you now if you're a writer on the verge of publishing and be interested in coloring. But the reality is that there are different colors elicit different vibes and energies. So when you're writing the book and those who you want to align with it, I want you to think about what colors help do that. What colors do you feel align with your book, with your book's message, and that your readers will be called to pick up and read? Also take a peek at your competition and see what kind of colors that they are selecting. It's interesting looking around and picking up on things that maybe you would have taken for granted other days that now you're like, oh, that makes sense. So I'm standing here as I'm recording this episode with a stack of my Colored Today Pretty books right next to me. And I keep looking over at the colors in that book, which I know I spoke about in a previous episode. But I think it's really important to share that, you can become very unapologetic when you select your colors and your cover designs based on who your ideal reader is. And Colored Today Pretty was always designed really for women, probably women who have families and maybe moms because of some of the messages that I write about. And I'm unapologetic in my colors and design scheme there. And that's what I want you to be too, to be thinking about what that looks like. The last thing that I want you to think about when we're talking about the physical book and you're doing some research and you're using the Write to Your Reader framework is this. I want you to capture from the competition, what is the price point that they're using to sell the book? There is a lot that goes into the price point. And if you're using a traditional publisher or even a collaborative publisher or hybrid publisher, you may get some good insights on what your book price should be. But whatever way you're publishing, you probably want to give some thought to what would feel like a good price for you. There's so much more that goes into it than just saying, I want to sell my book for $25. This is a great place to start. Sure. That is a great place to start. But I want you to really think back into what is not only a good price that you're comfortable with, but what's a good price that your reader will purchase. So for instance, for me and my Colored Today Pretty books, I wanted it to be under 20. That was important to me because when I do speaking engagements, I wanted, when I'm in the back of the room, to be able to feel like this was something that they had cash on hand to be able to purchase, and where I had some wiggle room if I wanted to give discounts. So do some investigation and see what the market will bear. All right, the third part in the Write to Your Reader framework is the action. And when I'm talking about action, I'm talking about this. Unless you're writing a fiction book, which if so, welcome. Just know that the Empowered Author podcast is really targeted for the nonfiction authors. But quite frankly, I say that, I bet you fiction authors would fall into this category too. But most of the time, your book is going to want to invigorate someone into action. Whether that's an action that they take personally or that they take a larger action in the community, whether it's an action that is pulled because of how you're writing the book or what you want them to do from reading it, you want them to likely do movement, to do something, to take action. You want them to have a more robust life. You want them to be better. You want them to do something. That is why you wrote the book, this action. So I want you to think about, what is that? What are you really trying to call someone to do personally in your book? And capture that outside of the manuscript so then you can go back and go, did I accomplish that? How are they supposed to take action in their personal life by reading your book? That's another question. Do you have something in your manuscript that allows them to connect with you? Then I want you to think of, is there a larger action that they're supposed to take? Something bigger in the community that they can do to instill in the life of another, to make a difference in the life of our community. And I've also just mentioned connection. I want to reiterate this too. How can they connect with you? Have you thought that through? Have you thought about building an author platform? Have you thought about building a way for them to create engagement with you? They're going to want to, I can tell you that, I promise, especially if you've done parts 1 and 2, right? Part 3 is a given. They're going to want to connect with you. So how do you want them to connect with you? And how do you want them to work with you? If you are a nonfiction author, you might be thinking this is a way to build up a business. Have you thought about what that looks like? Do you see this book as like a one and done, or is this the beginning of something big? Is it a door opener? I want you to reflect on all of that, because understanding what action needs to be taken is important as you're building in the final book. All right. That was the Write to Your Reader framework. And I've really been using this to provide the guidance that authors need to ensure that their books will be ones that they love, and also ones that their potential readers, their ideal readers, are going to want, need, and will buy. I always like to add the will buy, because you can want something and need something, but it takes something different to make them buy it. So it's really important to find a way to merge your why with your reader's why. Why did you write the book, and why will they invest in it? And that framework, it digs into the manuscript. It talks about the book itself, and it also reminds you about the actions you want them to take, the actions that they are going to want to take, and how to speak to both. Listen, a book is an avenue for giving. At least it is in my opinion. And I tell my clients, anyone I work with, these 3 things, or actually 4 things. I tell them, don't give in, because you're going to want to some days. Don't give up, because I know you're going to want to some days. And don't give way, but always give value. Hopefully you see this podcast as a way that I can give value to you. Crossing fingers that if you use this framework, you will be able to walk away realizing that your book is a tool for you to give value as well. Whatever your reason, one thing remains true. Writing a book is one thing. Marketing it is something altogether different. And that's where we come in. The Empower PR Group loves helping authors market their books. But we also realize that one of the best ways to market and sell a book is to write a book people will buy in the first place. The Empowered Writer Program is one of the Empower PR Group's signature programs dedicated to helping aspiring writers who have begun drafting their manuscript ensure that they are writing a book that meets their needs and the needs of their readers. This program is a 12-week collaborative experience that includes a mix of self-guided content and reflection with dedicated one-on-one coaching, time with myself, Stephanie Feger of the Empower PR Group. And we will take a deep look into your manuscript to ensure that it's prepped and ready for whatever publishing journey you want to embark upon. I'd love to chat with you, see if this program is a good fit. Visit empowerprgroup.com/theempoweredwriter or click on the link in the show notes to learn more. Now, you know I'm a believer that empowered people empower people. I've empowered you, aspiring author. Now it is your turn to empower others.